I don't want to be strong like man who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fight bears in the forest.
This is our 7th holiday stressor episode.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of stressors at the holidays.
Yeah.
Makes for a lot of content.
Yeah, it makes for a lot of content. I mean, we could just keep going too. Like, I don't think... it's insane how many stressors and things there are at the holidays.
Do we rename our podcast to Bitch and Bear versus Stressors?
We will be talking about other things besides stressors. It just seems like this is very timely. Like, yeah. So I think we will be talking about stressors, and we will be talking about stressors for the next couple weeks, and then we're going to shift away from them until next year.
We can talk about them all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding. Keep listening to us.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, we already kind of talked about that first line. Let's see. So so we've got some themes going this holiday season. Stressors and the things that happen during the holiday season that affect our mental and physical health. So we have been and want you to join us in this journey in exploring how our health and well-being are an ecosystem.
Yeah, like they're all linked and tied together.
Yeah. So like we can't prioritize our physical activity when our mind is stressed or when we're anxious, which is why we are doing all this talking about stressors during the holidays, because it's difficult with all of that to then prioritize physical health.
Yeah, like getting to the gym gets harder. So much of it like kind of takes a slide in, especially like December. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's see. Exactly. So it's harder to, find that calm within ourselves without physical activity and quality sleep, which just adds to the stress. And it's hard to do these things like with traveling to see family, dealing with family that you have traveled to see, eating too much food or eating foods that you're not used to, drinking more than you used to, all of these things. So this week, we are focusing on family and the holidays.
We're going to try and keep this one to our normal, 30 minutes. Fingers crossed. I feel like it'll be easy to, go down rabbit holes. We'll always be on topic, but it's just a very long and in-depth topic it could become.
It could, yes. There's a lot of content to mine here.
Yeah, there's a lot of mining that could go on in this particular episode.
It can turn into a bit of a therapy session. So first and foremost, right, we are humans and we are emotional beings as humans. Contrary to what it feels like with my tiny dog, she is not quite as emotional as I am. So we make even our most rational decisions based on how we are feeling about the outcome.
Yes.
However, many of us are taught, these hard skills in school, math, writing, reading. And at home, we might be taught more hard skills, how to cook, how to do laundry, household chores. But there's a good likelihood, especially our generation younger or older, who were not taught ways to deal with our emotions in healthy ways.
Yes. Yes, exclamation point, end of sentence.
I feel like, folks our age and older, we are elder millennials, were like that emotional literacy.
Yeah.
Was not a topic of conversation. It was not something that was prioritized in our education growing up. And so this really becomes relevant during the holidays because you put holiday stressors and families together and tend to have a bit of a shitstorm It can bring out very strong emotions for yourself, for your family. And there's lots of ways that this happens. So in episode 4, we talked about holiday landmines.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on family during that, I believe. And so we are going to, and by we, I mean Sid, because her section is coming up, is going to be talking about the ways that families step on those landmines during the holidays.
Okay, so some of the landmines. A pretty common one, and I think we, whether you are straight, heterosexual, bisexual, however you identify in sexuality, gender, it doesn't seem to matter. This one seems to pop up no matter what, and that is relatives putting pressure on you about the future. We probably experience this. It tends to come from some of our older relatives, like great Aunt Kathy over in the corner. And it could be about any number of things.
Yeah.
So it can be about, the trope for the heterosexuals is, as soon as they get married, they walk into a family gathering at the holidays and it's like, okay, when are you having kids? It could be about, hey, when are you going, when are you going to law school? Or like whatever it might be, there's always this like thing that they want to bring up and put a lot of pressure on you about.
To be fair, no one's ever asked me when I'm going to law school.
Same. Nobody's asked me that either. It is coming from a place, I would like to hope it's coming from a place of like goodwill, and that they just are, they're focused on your life and they want good things for you.
Mm-hmm.
And they, they have hopes and they have dreams, but it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of meeting these expectations that you didn't know you had for great Aunt Kathy. Like how are you, like, she's pinning all of her hopes and dreams on you having kids. Like it's a little weird.
Well, I think too, it's that generational and societal thing, right? Especially with older relatives who measure success, especially for women, by, are you married? Do you have children? Is your house clean? Like, I don't know. And so, yeah, I feel that. I get asked a lot, oh, who are you seeing? When are you going to settle down? Never.
Like,
because I started a podcast.
But you are settled down, right? Like you're an independent woman. Like you do your grocery. Like you run a household. It's just that you are the main factor in your household, and that you have chosen that your household will remain childless. Like it's not. They're waiting for you to do this next step that isn't like an. It's not.
It's not actually my next step.
Yeah, exactly. So it like feels really intrusive, and you're like, why are you interrogating me? Like
ask me about my podcast.
Yeah, right. Like, talk to me about my podcast. I don't know. So how do you deal with these questions or like unsolicited advice? That's my other one. It's like this pressure usually comes with like, here, let me tell you how you go about doing these things.
How do I deal with that? I mean, I guess just smile and nod a lot is the easiest way to just like skate through that. Because because I am unmarried and by choice childless, it's, there's no really good answer that anyone wants to hear. Like, the dating pool is a murky puddle and I don't want children in my space. And nobody really wants to hear that. Because that's not the traditional female perspective.
Yeah.
So I just kind of smile and nod and move on as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think that I tend to do the like pivot maneuver, like pivot the conversation away from it. I've gotten really good at that. Though I also am just kind of like, I think when I was younger, probably just was like, I'm not going to have this conversation right now and like walk away because I'm pretty direct with how I communicate.
You are good at that.
Yeah. So I think that's another one that you can always try is just being direct, or you can just like pull them aside one-on-one. Like usually at big like family gatherings, there's like little pods, and you know, great Aunt Kathy might be sitting over in the corner and she might bellow across the room like, hey, when are you gonna have kids? And like approaching her and being like, hey, great Aunt Kathy, I don't know if you've heard, but I'm married to a woman. Like, you know, like you can have like a smaller conversation.
I know what my new directive is.
You know, it's like, it's gonna be really hard. My go-to used to be to just make fun of it, and Shelby would get really mad at this. People would be like, "Oh, so when are you guys thinking about having kids?" And I would like, "We just keep trying, but nothing's happening." And
I do
just,
like that
watching
one.
the cog and people being like, "Ah!" It's like just like, "Oh, you made me uncomfortable, so now I'm going to make you uncomfortable in return."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that. I love that line.
Yeah. So yeah, relatives putting pressure on you about the future is definitely one I think that just across the board everyone encounters.
Yeah.
And it's easy to maneuver around it. It's probably one of the easier ones to maneuver around if you just don't want to have that conversation. It's easy to kind of segue, especially at the holidays. You can be like, oh well. Yeah. So, oh look, Johnny's playing with the tree. I'm gonna go over it. Like, just like walk away. Oh no, don't eat that. I gotta go run and go get that.
Yeah. How are your kids?
Yeah.
How are they doing in school?
Yeah. I can't wait to have that one.
Which is actually a good segue into our next landmine, which is bringing up old mistakes or rehashing arguments. So often during the holidays, family members see this as a time like you're all together, you might be reminiscing, and it's a time to bring up old hurts and old grievances, if you will. So it might be passive-aggressive comments or stories, and which I could see, like, maybe not aggressive stories, but maybe those embarrassing stories that you don't want, like, that nobody wants told.
Yeah.
Like, just leave it. And so while it may seem better to avoid or pivot away, this is a good time to acknowledge that old hurt in a neutral and constructive way. Sid's example was, I am sorry you feel that way. Tell me more.
I like that one because you're apologizing. And that's usually what people are looking for. It's like they've been hurt in some way and they want you to acknowledge that there's this interaction that has happened.
Yeah.
You know, you see it a lot when there's like been a recent death in the family around the holidays of like, oh, I didn't see you at grandma's funeral, or I didn't see you at the hospital. Like, you know, I guess you had better things to do, you know, like those kinds of things where it's like passive aggressive. They're feeling something about that experience.
Yeah.
And so it's really simple when you're like, I'm sorry you feel that way. You're saying you're sorry, and they tend to latch on to that. And so like you can check off like I have apologized in a way, right? Like, and so it opens a good door, and most of the time people can move past that once they hear those words. Like, especially older generations, like, I don't know about you, but like growing up, teachers, parents, everybody's like, oh, you hurt this person, tell them you're sorry.
That was the magical Band-Aid.
Yeah, it was the magical Band-Aid. So we're preconditioned to, when we hear that, be like, oh, okay, it's like soothing. Even if you weren't sorry, or even if the hurt was so bad that you didn't want to accept it, you still had to. There's a whole nother thing that we can go down. But like, as a trope, that I am sorry, hearing those words often start to smooth things over pretty much immediately. Yeah. So it's a good way to like just say that and be done with it and be like, okay, okay. And
we've apologized. We're fine now, right?
Yeah.
Until next year. And
if they, obviously, if they continue to bring it up, that's a good time to be like, hey,
this keeps coming up.
So let's talk about it. Like, not have an argument, but let's talk about it, because there's clearly something here that is bothering you that you haven't felt comfortable actually saying. And let's get to the bottom of it. It's much better. And personally, I think, to like have those hard conversations even around the holidays, because who's got time for all that? Like, they're clearly carrying around a lot of baggage, and like I have a hard enough time like working out to carry my own baggage. Like, I don't need to be carrying other people's too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my example for a way to acknowledge it. I don't know if you have another way that you like to acknowledge it.
I'd probably just do the smile and nod thing again. But that's my avoidant behavior.
Okay.
Just to like get by and get through it and get out.
Well, at least you acknowledge that it's avoidant behavior.
Trying to work on myself here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my typical is just get through it and like get out and on to the next thing.
Cool. I guess that's one way to approach it too. This one, the one that I have started to see, and I'll speak for myself, is like a lot of people default to kind of their roles within the family dynamic around the holidays. And what I mean by that is adult children, like with their parents. So now everybody's adults, and it's like parents demanding or requesting very feverishly that you as an adult stay for like an extended period of time over the holidays, kind of remembering like what you were when you were a young adult in college, like when you had those longer breaks, and like feeling a lot of pressure for you to be there for an extended period of time, or that you know, not understanding that maybe you have a significant other side of the family you need to visit, and like time is now split, or whatever it might be, or once you're there, dictating how every moment is going to be spent while you're visiting. And like, I know, like, when I go home for the holidays, I still have friends in my hometown, so it becomes like, yes, I'm home for the holidays and I want to see my family, but I also have these other relationships that I need to make sure that I'm putting in effort to. So then like time gets split out even further. And so it can be just like a really stressful time of like, okay, who gets what? And yeah, I'm working on getting better about laying out expectations ahead of the holidays. And just like, okay, how do we do this? And for the parents listening, a tip is, how about instead of demanding, that you frame it as a desire instead of like, oh, you know, it'd be really great if we could do X, Y, and Z while you're here. And like, instead of being like, no, these are the things we're going to do while you're here. Yeah. So that's how those tend to play out.
I thought that was a really interesting note when I was reading through the show notes, which Sydney usually writes. Because I've noticed that too, as we get older.
Yeah.
That, you know, especially if we have lived away from family and then returning to the family unit for holidays or visits or whatever, you know, that personality shift between who you are as an adult, as an independent adult, and who you are when you were with your family is usually very different.
Very different.
Which is so fascinating to me.
Yeah. And it's like, it's boundary setting. Two, it's just being like, oh, this is an exciting time. This is the holidays. This is the things that like I look back on in their memories. And so it's like trying to recreate them a little bit in those senses. I think for some people, I think it's just easier in a lot of cases to just be like, oh, okay, like, you know, this is also, we've been taught, our generation, like, you know, it's better to be seen and not heard. So like we go into homes and like, it's like, oh, this is my parents' house. So you just like diminish a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is an interesting thing. I think it's easier for people who live closer to their families.
Yeah.
In some ways, because I think they see them probably on a more regular basis and start to develop those like boundaries and like be like, no, this is how I act and I'm going to act like an adult in your home.
Yeah. It's more normal. Like they've developed themselves
Yeah.
like alongside their family.
Yeah.
Where I know for me, I haven't lived near family in a long time. And so like as I grew into my like fully formed adult self, going home is very weird because like it feels like they have very different views and expectations of who you are. And
yeah the
There's
surrounding is also I'm sure plays a huge
Yeah.
part. Like, I don't know, you being in your childhood bedroom, like what does that do to your psyche of like, okay, well now
Yeah.
I have not much has changed, or maybe everything has changed and you
Right.
just are like wanting a little bit of that childhood like memory back, and like
Yeah.
that feeling of like, especially around the holidays, of like, oh, for me it's like waking up and like Santa, that kind of stuff. And being in your childhood bedroom
Mhm.
can, I'm sure, play a part for a lot of people. Just like maybe
so.
take down your Hanson posters or your Backstreet Boys or whatever.
Not the Backstreet Boys.
Spice Girls. Yeah,
I
maybe
don't know. I didn't have band posters.
I don't think I did either. Okay, we digress.
Okay. Anyways, I think that's a very interesting note, and it's good to set boundaries and
Yeah.
try to be your authentic self with your family because they deserve that.
They do. Yeah, and if they don't deserve it, then it's a good time to learn about how they feel and be like, okay, is this a family that I want to be a part of? Because like I always like to say that you can love your family, but you don't have to like them.
Mhm.
Like if your family isn't who you would choose to spend time with, maybe they're not okay with like your sexuality or your gender representation, whatever it might be, you can love them for who they were and what they did for you in your life, but like you don't actually have to like them and like spend time with them as like people.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but for some people it's something that they need to do for their own self-preservation.
Mhm. I mean, I have made that decision myself. Not because my family necessarily disapproves of any of my life choices, but just for my own self-preservation and family dynamic. That can get a little weird in my family.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when approaching the holidays and family time, there are some things that you can kind of keep in the back of your mind that will potentially help you through this stressful time so that you can focus on being happy and being healthy and all of those things. One of those things is remembering that your feelings are valid. No one can tell you that your feelings are wrong. They're yours. They're how you process things. It's your perception. And so if somebody's like, well, you shouldn't feel that way, it's like, no, you can feel however you want. That's the thing about being a human. You're allowed to feel however you want about a situation.
Yes. Because you can't always control how you feel. But what you can control is how you respond to those feelings.
Yes.
Those very valid feelings.
Yes.
So your feelings are valid and you can feel however you want or need to feel. But the thing to remember is that responses to those feelings are not always valid.
Yes.
Or appropriate.
Yeah.
You may feel like punching Uncle Bob in the face, but that is not an appropriate response.
To your feelings.
Yes.
Yes. This one is a big one, and that's why I took it, because I feel very passionately about it, is that if you don't give your emotions space, they will take it. I have this funny thing that I like to say is like your piss pot. So like when you're pissed off or like whatever, think of like a bucket, and everybody's bucket or pot is different sizes. So like mine, for example, is probably like a stock pot or a 5-gallon bucket. Like I can put a lot of things in my bucket, but at some point the bucket needs to be dumped or it's going to overflow or explode in some people's cases. So like when you're trying to like suppress feelings or avoid feelings or look the other way, they do accumulate. Like, and you might be able to at one event kind of like ignore and avoid all of those things, but eventually they will come out, and it usually happens at the most slightest little thing. It's like it just overflows just a little bit, and then it's like all over and done with. So like all those things you were suppressing about, Uncle Bob, who was like saying the N-word at Christmas dinner, and then it's like 2 days later, and it's taking down the Christmas lights with your family, like at home, and then you just lose your mind.
This happens to me.
So it's like important to understand that if you don't give your feelings that space, they'll take it eventually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my pot is like a thimble. Like
definitely
a wine
around
glass.
Parking. Let me tell you. We don't have enough time on this one. We'll give you a whole parking rant podcast. It'll be Amber's rants. You'll get a parking one, I promise.
Parking is my pufferfish situation. So Sydney's next point is that emotions provide great feedback, but they make poor decisions. And we did not talk about this before I end, but I'm guessing what you meant by that is that you should not make a decision based on your in the moment emotions.
Yes, exactly.
Like punching Uncle Bob because he has made yet another homophobic slur.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly right. Like they do make poor decisions. And you tend to make poor decisions when you're in a heightened state of like emotions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
right. Take a breath.
Yeah, take a breath. Go stand in the corner, like whatever you need to do.
Pet a dog.
Cry, whatever it is. But like, don't make any decisions when you're in that moment.
Yeah, such a good choice.
Yeah. This one, you're responsible with dealing with your emotions, and others are responsible for dealing with theirs. You don't have to take that burden on.
Mm-hmm.
If others have a poor way of dealing with their emotions, that's on them. And this is something you have to learn. It's not tiptoeing around other people's emotions. It's, if that's how they're going to be, that's on them. Mm-hmm. And try and really leave that at the door if you can, and practice it, because it can be hard.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. It's very easy to take on what other people are feeling, mm-hmm. especially at like stressful times at the holidays when you're not really, when your piss pot is full and you have nowhere else to put the emotions coming at you from other people.
Yeah, I like to say, don't ride other people's roller coasters.
Not your circus, not your monkeys.
Yeah.
So I think we did pretty good. That was not...
Yeah.
I have the camera turned around, so I don't know how long that actually took. Hopefully it's not super short. But yeah. So that's family and the holidays.
Yeah. That's family and the holidays. At least some of family and the holidays.
Yeah.
It could be a really in-depth dive, but
yeah. Maybe we'll dive deeper next year.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do ones that are like our deep dives.
Going forward, we have a few more weeks. What, like 2?
Yeah.
2 or 3 more weeks of holiday stressor topics. And then it's going to be a whole new year.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And yeah, starting in the new year, we have some fun things planned. We're going to be hosting an event in conjunction with Common House here in Richmond. It's going to be super fun. More details coming on that. We're going to start having some friends and special guests joining us on the podcast.
I'm so excited.
Some of our besties are going to be joining us, and we can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
I'm so excited.
So yeah, let us know what topics you want us to explore. We haven't asked this before. We've just kind of been dictating what we're going to talk about, which, I mean, it's our podcast. But yeah, if there's a topic that you want us to talk about or delve into or rant about, let us know. We are always open to ideas and feedback.
Yes.
I mean, we'd like nice feedback, but I guess any constructive feedback is fine too.
Yeah. We'll take any feedback at this point.
Yeah.
And don't forget to follow us, like us, review us, do all the things.
Rate us,
because we're on all the platforms. We are. I know, we're on Apple Podcasts. I'm super excited.
We're on Apple Podcasts. I don't think anyone's watched us on there yet.
That's okay.
Last time I saw. So we're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts. I think I'm still the only subscriber there. We're on Amazon Music, where my mother listens. YouTube. That's right. Yes. The video is on YouTube. So you can actually like watch us doing this, which
is kind of fun. And it's going to get more fun, especially when we have guests on. Because right now we're essentially in our PJs.
Are we not going to be in our PJs when we have guests?
Oh, we should talk about that.
Do we have to dress up?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay. I'm less excited about our guests.
JK, if you're going to be on our podcast, you get to be in your PJs. We just executive decision.
Okay, this is a little PJ like, but this is a real shirt.
I don't believe you.
You are just wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, go listen to us. Go watch us. Go rate us. Send us feedback if you like. You can email us at, what are we at? shieldmaidentc@gmail.com.
You can DM us on Instagram.
Or Facebook, I guess, if you're a Facebook person.
Yeah, there's lots of ways. Yeah. You have a lot of homework. Good luck.